Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday for the Emily's List Digital Organizing 101 webinar. Welcome. So my name is Ruby. I am the National Outreach Manager here at Emily's List. I'm really excited to be with you all today. I will also be coming back a little bit later in this webinar to answer or to ask your questions with our presenter answering them. So first, I want to dive into a little bit about Emily's List. So Emily's List is the leading resource for women in politics. We recruit, train, and endorse pro-choice Democratic women to run for office up and down the ballot. And I want to get into a little bit of the norms as well for this webinar. So we want to make sure that we invest in our time together. We only have about 27 more minutes left in this webinar. So just make sure that you're either taking notes if you want to do that, thinking about questions you want to ask, and that leads to my next norm. All questions are valid. You can just type them in the text box in your webinar toolbar, and we will be coming back on later to ask some of those questions to our presenter. And then finally, our slides are internal. This is a sisterhood. These slides were made by women for women to give you that cutting edge when you're thinking about running for office. So just keep these to yourself and trust in the sisterhood. Awesome. So now I'm going to introduce our presenter for today. Her name is Olivia, and she is the Digital Engagement Director at Emily's List. She builds digital tools and manages online communities that train, inspire, and motivate the more than 46,000 women who reached out to Emily's List about running for office this cycle. And then prior to Emily's List, Olivia was the digital director at the Climate Action Campaign. So now I'm going to hand it over to Olivia, and I'll be back on later.
Thanks, Ruby. Hey, everybody. So as Ruby said, my name is Olivia Noble, and I'm excited to talk to you all about digital organizing. So one thing I did want to mention, some of you guys may have joined our previous webinars this month on best practices for email and best practices for social media. Each of those were also 20 minutes, and we'll be circulating the recordings for all three of the webinars after this. So if you missed those, you still have an opportunity to check them out. So just wanted to put in a plug for those great webinars also. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to you all about digital organizing. So just to go over a couple of the goals for the webinar. First off, we want you to understand digital organizing tactics to move people from online to offline action, learn how to use the ladder of engagement, and learn how to understand digital organizing best practices. So what do I mean when I say the words like digital organizing? Digital organizing is about using all the tools in your tool set to build a sense of community online with your supporters and to build a sense of moving people from an online action to an offline action. So from liking your page on Facebook to showing up at an event. And one of the things that I think about a lot when I talk about digital is that a lot of people think about digital tools as an arm of their press team, and talking about your campaign, why you want to run for office, or as an arm of your fundraising team, so bringing in more money and sort of the more traditional email fundraising. But I think there's a really important third part to digital tools, which is organizing. You can be using your digital tool set to reach out to supporters, to encourage them to become advocates for your campaign, to get them to turn out at events, to get them to invite their friends to be fans of you, and just generally to build a sense of community and loyalty with the people that are supporting your campaign. So I think it's a really crucial part of digital tools that sometimes gets fallen by the wayside. So when we talk about tactics for digital organizing, there are a couple of key resources that we want to talk about. So the campaign website is the first and foremost. It's the thing that people see when they first look you up online. Do you have a sign up button for people to get more information about your campaign? That's probably the #1 thing after a donate button that you should have on your campaign website, along with your name and what you're running for. If you have a little bit more money and time, you could think about putting your events on your website and giving people an opportunity to show up in person at an event. Social media, are you using your social media effectively to build a sense of community, to thank your supporters, to organize people to attend events? Are you using Facebook events, that sort of thing? SMS. If you're lucky enough to have an SMS tool set, SMS can be a really incredible way to turn people out to events. You can target people down to a really specific radius of like 10 minutes outside of an event and text people, hey, we're going to be at the library in your town in 2 days. Do you think you can make it? We'd really love to have a big turnout. I've seen that be super effective on campaigns. And finally, email. Are you using email to not just ask people for money or talk to people about your latest policy rollout, but are you using it to bring people into your campaign and get them to turn out at events? So all of these are tools that you can consider using when you're thinking about how to digitally organize your supporters. And all of these are important to this sense of building community. And when I say that, I think sometimes it can feel kind of general. But what we mean when we talk about that is, your campaign, we say this a lot, your campaign isn't about you. It's not about getting Olivia elected. It is about the values that you see in your community and the kind of change that you want to see happen in your community. So the people that are supporting you, they're not helping Olivia get elected. They're helping that vision become a reality in their community. And they're not just supporting your campaign, they are your campaign. And these digital organizing tools can help them feel like they are a part of your campaign. So I think when I think about digital organizing, a lot of times that's the framework that I'm coming at it with, is how can I make people understand and feel like they're really valued in this community that this campaign is building. So I think that's incredibly important to think about. One of the other things you should think a lot about is like, how can you make your campaign seem fun and exciting, like a place people want to be a part of? If they see their friends turning out to this awesome event, are they, this generates FOMO thing. Are they feeling like they need to be a part of this because it's the thing that's making the change in their community? And that can be a really helpful way to sort of generate that kind of emotion that you want from people. And you also want to make sure you're measuring success across your platforms. So maybe if you don't have a big email list, you're not going to drive a ton of people to show up at a rally. But if you have a big Facebook presence, maybe you will. So I think it's about sort of managing your expectations and using all the tools you have available to get the kinds of results you want to see. So the biggest thing we talk about when we talk about digital organizing is a ladder of engagement. So think about a situation where you have someone who just signed up for your campaign, who says they're really excited and they're excited about the kind of things you're talking about. Are you going to ask that person to host a house party with 40 people to watch the debates and maybe fundraise for your campaign? Probably not. That person's probably not going to say yes. They've never done anything for a campaign before. They're just newly excited. And that's a really big ask. That's not to say you can't ask any supporters to do that, but you want to be thinking about, how can I get the person who just showed up to my campaign to become that person in a couple of steps? So rather than saying, taking your hot lead and asking them this really big, hard to do thing, give them a series of steps that get them up this ladder so that eventually they say yes to that ask. So if someone just joined your campaign, maybe you ask them to sign a petition standing with the states that are fighting back against the recent abortion bans. That's a great example of something that aligns values. It makes them feel like, hey, I'm participating in what this campaign is doing, and I agree at principle with what the kinds of things they're saying. It's also a pretty easy ask. It's just signing a form online. That's a good example of taking someone who's excited, giving them an easy ask that maybe doesn't take a lot out of their time. But then the important thing you want to think about is, what's the next thing I'm going to ask them? How am I going to take them to the next level? So maybe in the thank you email that they get after they sign that sign-up form, it asks them, thank you so much. Do you think you could forward this to 3 of your friends and get 3 of your friends to sign up? That's a bigger ask. It involves looking up their friends' email addresses, but it's not hosting an event. And then each time people take action, you want to be thinking, how can I keep moving them up this ladder? And that's how you can build your superstar volunteers that are going to do everything for you. But with each step, you want to be thinking, how can I keep moving them up that ladder? One of the things I think about a lot is, don't be afraid to ask people who just did something to do something else. Sometimes I think campaigns worry that they'll sort of burn people out, or that, oh, this person just did something for me, I'm going to give them a week break and then I'll ask them to do something in a little bit. I don't think you should be worried about overtaxing people, because the people who are most likely to take an action with your campaign are the people who just did something with your campaign. They're excited, they're motivated, they've got that adrenaline. And I don't think you should be worried that they'll say no and never come back to you. So don't be afraid to keep asking people. And remember that your best leads are probably the people who are already engaged with your campaign at a slightly lower level. So yeah, we want to be thinking about how we can keep moving people up this ladder. So what are some of the ways that we can do this? And actually, to go back to this, one of the most important things that I think people should be doing is thanking people at each step. So every time someone does something with your campaign, you should make sure you thank them. And I think if you can find ways to thank people publicly online, I think that's really cool. So if somebody, even if somebody just posts about you on Facebook and tags you, or on Twitter and tags you, if you can get the campaign to post a reply from the campaign account saying, "Thanks, Sarah, for showing up. We really appreciated your support." It takes really little time out of your day, but it makes Sarah feel really important. And it makes her feel like she was valued, the campaign noticed her, and that's going to make her more likely to show up the next time. And if someone shares a photo, retweet it, that sort of thing. Like, make people feel like that they are appreciated, they are noticed, and that they are a part of this community that you're building, which gets back to the whole, make people feel like this is a community, it's not just a person. So what are some of the things that every campaign should be doing? One of the first things I think of every time is Facebook events. This campaign that we have up here is an example in Florida. You see, they have a Facebook event for every single event the campaign is doing. So if you're stuffing postcards, envelopes, if you are knocking doors, if you have a door shift in one town and a door shift in another town, have a Facebook event for each of those events. And that'll make people feel like, oh, I can see the campaign's really active. Here are all the different opportunities I have to get involved. And not to mention, Facebook has built-in features that will remind people the event is coming up. So that sort of absolves you of having to do a lot of heavy lifting to remind people to come out. If any of you have signed up for a Facebook event, you get all of these notifications, hey, it's coming up. Mine auto generates on my Google Calendar. So it's lots of things built in that you don't have to worry about. Another thing, always take photos at events. Here's a great photo of an event in California with one of our candidates. Looks really fun. That looks like a place I want to be. And if you think about it, if a person shows up at your event and then the next day you post about that event and they see a picture of themselves on social, they're going to feel really special. They're going to feel like, wow, the campaign is really excited that I was here. Look, there's my face on their website, or there's my face on their Facebook page. And they're just generally going to feel like their time was valued. A particularly genius tactic that I saw a campaign do recently was they posted a photo like this one on Facebook, got a bunch of likes, and then they tagged every single person that liked that event on Facebook in the comments and linked to their next event. And they said, hey, looks like you were really excited and liked this photo. How about you be in it next time we take a picture? And that, I wasn't living in Nebraska at the time, but I was very motivated to show up at that next event. So I think that's like a really great example of ways that you can be using what you've already done to drive more attendance in the future and get people really excited. I would encourage attendees to use all platforms available to them. So if someone has shown up to an event in person, they're probably going to post on social media. They've taken time out of their day, they've gotten a babysitter or driven however far away the event was. That person is pretty dedicated. They're probably going to post on social media, but they might not if you don't ask them to. So make sure to encourage your supporters, hey, post about, take pictures and use our hashtag, and hey, can you post about this thing on social, or can you make sure your supporters know to get out and vote for our primary? those people are definitely going to take that action. They just need to be asked to and maybe given some inspiration about the types of things they should post. But the more people you can get amplifying your message, the more people you'll reach and the bigger your community will grow. Always make sure you're following up. So as I said before, make sure you always thank people and make sure you always have a built-in action ready for them to take once they take a different action. This is a great example from Kate Gallego, our Phoenix mayor candidate. So, this is as soon as people fill out a form, this is the next thing they see. Thank you, now let's get to work, sign up for more information. So always make sure you're thinking about how can I keep moving people up this ladder. And see if people fill that sign up form. Here, there's an upsell to a donation page. Always make sure you're thinking about integrating your field work. So everything that your field team is doing, every event, every appearance at a rally or a speaking event, Canvas, all of those events, you should be thinking about how can I be communicating and talking about these things online? And how can I be using my online spaces to drive support? All of those events are opportunities for you to build that type of community online. So if you're doing anything in your campaign, you should post pictures about it. You should find ways to thank the people who showed up. Tag those people if you know who they are or if they're public figures. Really think about making your social media and your digital tool set a real arm of your field campaign, and it will continue to, it'll just expand the reach that field work would have only had in one place. Now it has it across your digital platforms. So that's the end of our presentation, but I know we have a couple of questions. I'm really excited to take some. So I'm gonna shoot it back over to Ruby, who's gonna ask some of the questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
Awesome, thank you, Olivia. So we got a couple questions in from you all today. So Olivia, one question we got is, what is an example of a good next level ask after someone joins your email list?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think anything that is online is probably the best step. So if someone just joined your email list, they're probably not the kind of person who's immediately going to show up in person. So maybe you give them a sign-on form like the abortion ban example. Maybe you give them your social media and you ask them, hey, make sure you're following me on social media. That's a great way to make sure that people are getting all of the work that you're already putting in to all of your different platforms, that they're getting all of those different touch points. So I think either really like pushing people to all the different platforms that you're on or giving them a really simple sign-on is probably the best first step.
Awesome. All right, so our next and final question is, after an event, what sort of ask should you have in your follow-up?
Well, I think probably the first thing you should do is thank people again. Thank people for their hard work. Make sure they feel like they were appreciated before you pivot to the next ask. But I would think about what is the next event you have coming up. I would maybe think about asking people to bring a friend the next time they show up. Something that I saw a friend do really well during the midterms last election was that she would always post a picture of herself with the people that she had brought to an event, and then tag some friends that she thought might show up the next time and say, hey, are you actually ready to come out next time? I'm going to be driving my car to the event and can pick you up at 2:30. Like really specific direct asks I think are really important. And this is something else we talk about a lot, is the importance of a specific hard ask. So don't just ask people, hey, make sure you sign up for a future event, sort of vague and easy for people to avoid. And instead say, hey, are you free for another door knocking shift next week at 7 p.m.? Maybe not 7 p.m. because that's probably when the sun goes down, 4 p.m. That gives people a chance to say, you know what, no, I can't make 4 p.m., but do you have any other times available? That gives people something really tangible and specific to to agree to or not agree to, and then you can follow up from there. But a general ask of make sure you stay involved isn't going to keep moving people along that ladder.
Right. Awesome. Well, that is it for our questions, and I'll hand it back to Olivia. Thanks.
Great. Thanks for those great questions. So I'm just going to wrap it up with some key takeaways. So digital organizing is, you always want to make sure you're using this ladder of engagement. You're always thinking about how to get people moving up that ladder. You want to use every tool at your disposal. So think about how you can use your social media creatively, your email, your website, SMS if you have it. Think about all of those tools and how they can interplay and how they can be supporting the events your campaign is already doing. And finally, at the end of the day, this is about reaching people and building community and getting people to feel a part of your campaign, and about getting those people online that support you to show up in person. So if you take nothing else away from this, think about how you can be using those digital tools to make people feel like, you're not just reporting out your campaign to them, but you're making them feel welcome in your online spaces. Great. So thanks to our partners, and thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys signing up.